I'm Mike, I'm a paleontologist, and here in South Australia the age of dinosaurs was truly fascinating. But not because of dinosaurs. There aren't too many dinosaur fossils in our state. That's because most of South Australia was underwater during that time, covered in a large inland sea called the Eromanga Sea. The Eromanga Sea was filled with animals both strange and familiar. Amongst the strangers are the Plesiosaurs. These animals, the inspiration for the Loch Ness Monster, looked a bit like the body of a turtle, grafted onto the head of a sea snake. Here's a particularly long-necked one called an elasmosaur, which would have fed on squid-like things called belemnites. This adult is several meters long and is completely preserved in precious opal, making it one of the largest opalised fossils in the world. We find lots of baby plesiosaurs too, in fact more babies than adults. So maybe the Eromanga Sea was a plesiosaur nursery, just like the head of Bight is a nursery for southern right whales today. There were also ichthyosaurs, unusual marine reptiles that look like dolphins, a great example of convergent evolution. Unlike dolphins, which use sonar for hunting, ichthyosaurs were visual hunters, and some of them had eyes as big as dinner plates. Just like the plesiosaurs, many of these ichthyosaurs are preserved in precious opal. Many of the other inhabitants of the Eromanga Sea would have been much more familiar to us though. Here's the skull of a turtle, which looks like it could have washed up on the beach today. Turtles have barely changed in about 100 million years. They're so well adapted there's been no need. In that time though, the ancestors of mammals, tree shrew-like things, evolved into bats, into humans and into whales. The bottom of the Eromanga Sea was also covered in very familiar creatures, clams and scallops, much like the things we eat today. If you look closely, you'll see that some of these clams have neat holes drilled in their shells, always in exactly the same spot. These holes were made by their arch-enemies, oyster-boring snails, which drill into them right where the shell-closing muscles are and inject the poison to paralyse them, so the poor clams have no choice but to open and get eaten. We can see this happening today. If you go to the beach and pick up a bunch of clam shells, many of them will have holes drilled in exactly the same spot. So while the age of dinosaurs in South Australia might be a bit light on dinosaurs, it's still amazing, filled with incredible marine reptiles and other sea creatures.
Tune in to the Great South Australian Fossil Debate through Facebook Live on Sunday 23rd of August at 4 p.m. through Dinosaur University and Dinosaurs Down Under.